Okay, so let's check if the audio is working. Okay, yeah, that seems to be fine. So let me switch over to this so we can actually go through the relatively little that they actually showed. I think that's probably the main thing to say coming out of this, is that obviously it is our first look, so I don't think we were expecting a huge amount, but I think we kind of maybe expected a little bit more than we actually got. Pictures obviously was the kind of bare minimum we expected. The footage, the kind of rumored kind of title stuff was definitely not like incredible. So bit of a weird one this time out. But there's some stuff to discuss here. Definitely some stuff to discuss here. So I have the pictures, I have the logo here, have the trailer open here so we can take a look at that, even though it's probably the least interesting part of everything that we got. And then, like I said earlier on, once we're done with the live action discussion, I'm going to end the stream by opening up this booster box of Avatar The Last Airbender Weiss Schwarz. So we'll just do that right at the end. Shouldn't take too long, but should be something kind of fun to do. So let's I suppose we'll start with the trailer, because I think that's what they technically did first on the actual so that's it, basically. Some element logo rocks, and I suppose we get our logo. They actually started off by just showing a pretty generic piece of text, but then we actually get our actual logo. So they use the actual Avatar logo for Avatar, and then the live action part of it, The Last Airbender, is in this font for some reason. Not really sure necessarily what they're going for here. I think it looks fine. It is just the logo, so I don't mind it too much. It doesn't immediately stand out to me as something that is like a problem. It's just, okay, that's the logo. A bit of texture in there on it. I guess it's meant to be like some sort of a scroll type parchment effect or something like that. Similarly, kind of just going back through this, at looking at these a little bit, like, it's nice. Like, it is the kind of somewhat accurate, kind of like Earth symbol here, kind of done in the landscape, which is kind of cool. The fire one gives you a rough idea of the fire effects, I guess. Water's kind of cool, bit of an ice effect going on. Otherwise, the symbol is relatively accurate. And then the air kind of done in again, sand, rock with just some kind of dust going on. It's nice, but there's nothing particularly to say other than they didn't change the symbols, which is good. We've kind of dealt with that before, sort of to a certain degree, some of the older symbols kind of being phased out for a little bit, but then being brought back in. So it's nice to see them kind of sticking around. Otherwise, yeah, nothing too much to say here. Yeah, we get the logo. Air, and you can see the arrow is kind of in the empty space between the air and bender, which is a nice little thing, but it's like, is that the whole reason they did it this way? Because if they used more of the kind of traditional Avatar font, they might not have been able to do it so kind of nicely. The kind of like optical effect that they have there with the arrow. Don't really know how I feel about that, but there's that. And then 2024. Now, this was obviously rumored. The actual leaked rumors about this were completely accurate. That I think we knew going in it was going to be some sort of a title sequence, but then the leakers seemed to get additional information that, like, it's not even the actual title sequence. It's just like a even more basic version of it, and so that's exactly what we got there. So 2024. Obviously, the delays, I guess, are fully confirmed at this point. We are not going to see the show this summer. We're not going to see it at any point this year either. Which I don't know what the exact reasoning is. Obviously, again, some of the rumors seem to be suggesting that it's the CG work that they're making sure to take a lot of time on to make sure it's completely perfect. But the fact that there's no even like idea about when in 2024, because the leaker said like TBD 2024, and I guess the fact that it just says that, like not first half, not Q1 or anything like that, leads you to believe that like this probably isn't like very early 2024. It probably means they don't know for sure that they'll be able to hit the first quarter of the year, and we're probably looking at more like mid 2024 at best, probably. But that does bring us on to the character images, which is definitely the kind of main event of what we got. So like I have in the thumbnail, you can see here. So this is Aang, of course. And it's an interesting choice here because, in my opinion, the last Airbender movie actually got the costumes, in my mind, spot on. Exactly what you would want from a live action version of those costumes, because this was always going to be a bit of the challenge, is sort of how cartoon, how animation accurate do you go with how colorful Avatar actually is. That airbenders wear bright yellow, orange, and shades in between. Earthbenders like Toph wear pretty bright greens for the most part. And similarly, Water Tribe characters, a lot of times it's quite bright blues and stuff like that. Only some of the Fire Nation stuff is a little bit on the darker side, but it's still leaning into kind of purples and kind of maroons and light and kind of darker pinks and stuff like that. So I liked what the last Airbender movie did in kind of muting things a little bit, but still showing you that the color is there in parts, in like specific outfits. Like I think in the flashback in the movie, you saw some of the other airbenders wearing more of the colors, whereas Aang was wearing a sort of more kind of utilitarian kind of Jedi robes kind of style colors. Here they've definitely gone animation accurate with the colors here, so that's obviously fine. Similarly, the staff, you can see they've also made an effort to go as accurate as possible. You could see the kind of standard staff, and then the kind of diamond kind of patterns here, and then I guess there's one maybe just behind here for the other part of it. We'll see how well it looks when it kind of opens up into the glider pattern. That probably brings us to the arrow. This was always going to be an interesting one, because I think it would have been wrong to just do the plain blue solid arrow. That I think would have been a mistake. It would be accurate, but it would be a little kind of weird. Like I think I've already seen a little bit of a criticism that like some of this stuff comes across as being a little bit cosplay-y. And I think if it was just plain like solid blue arrow like the animation, it really would have come across that way. But what they've done here, if I zoom in a little bit more, you can see that there are details kind of throughout it. So they've gone for the overall solid look, but there are details kind of in there. So I think that makes it look pretty good. I probably would have maybe gone for like, my issue I think with the Tatsu in the live Last Airbender movie was probably that it wasn't maybe filled in enough, but I don't think you need to fill it in this much. Like it just like have it still be a detailed pattern, but just like have a little bit of space in there. But otherwise, it's a nice look. The set, you can see some stuff in the background, so some Water Tribe huts, some weapon racks, I guess. It's fading at the background, you can't see it super well, but it looks Water Tribe-y, for sure. So there's that. I wish they had shown us a picture that showed his hands to see the what the arrow tattoo looks like on his hands, that would have been definitely something to see. But so far they haven't really shown that. Again, I personally would have preferred it to be just a little bit muted. I think there's a balance between The Last Airbender and attempting to be like really, really accurate to the animation, but it's okay to me. I don't have like a huge problem with it, but it doesn't immediately stand out to me as like, that's perfect live action Aang. That was not my reaction to this. So pretty middle of the road. Katara here. So we do get a look at a little bit of kind of what the bending effects are going to look like. Again, I actually think the Last Airbender movie did water relatively well. This looks like the same sort of style of effect. It looks well in a still image, of course, for basic water bending. We do have the hair loopies here. Again, you'd have to see probably the back of her head to see just how super hyper accurate the hairstyle is to Katara. You can see the necklace is there, but her hand happens to just be in the way of seeing like the detail of it. So I wonder, is that specifically chosen like that they made sure to choose one where she happens to have her hand like here, just perfectly blocking actually seeing the betrothal necklace. Other than that, furs, you do have the kind of relatively bright blues and some kind of pattern kind of stuff going on here. Again, the Last Airbender movie, I felt did the Water Tribe outfits pretty well, where they had a mix of sort of their kind of heavy clothing was much more kind of like muted. There wasn't even too much colors to it, but their kind of core outfits were the colors, but it was again darker. It felt kind of realistic while still having a bit of the color there. And then I think when they went to the Northern Water Tribe in the movie, you saw more of the colors come out because of the difference between the South struggling, like absolutely devastated by the war, and the North, which is still thriving behind the walls. Again, it's one of those ones where this is not representative probably of what Katara is going to look like in most of the episodes, because I don't think she'll be wearing the full fur coat like all the time. This is going to be, I guess, her maybe in both tribes. Is this her in the Northern Water Tribe from later on practicing waterbending, or is this her in the South doing what little she knows? Otherwise, again, the actors, I think, seem to fit the roles pretty well so far, but I think we knew that from the second they were announced, obviously. Next we have Sokka. Let me move this across here a little bit. So interesting. Again, you get a look at the set here, the details, the kind of bone stuff in the background, which is kind of nice. I'm not sure how I feel about the detailing on this kind of outfit here. This is probably the one where I feel like I like the shoulders, but I don't know how I feel about the rest of the kind of outfit, especially the kind of chest area. Again, I think he looks like Sokka, and there's a lot of, I think, decently accurate stuff. But some of the detailing here, I'm not sure how strongly I feel about it. It's there's a lot going on here with the little circly bits and so on. I get it. This is him, I guess, in full I'm a warrior mode towards the start, and it's maybe not representative of what he's going to be wearing throughout most of the season. It's not representative of like the outfits he's going to have if we go into season 2 or 3 or anything like that. So this is very much a sort of 1-2 scene outfit, which is probably meant to purposefully not look kind of right, that he doesn't fit the role of a warrior just yet at this point, and that's kind of what we're going for. You do get a look at the boomerang, though. I probably need to move this out of the way. Let me just move this across here. So, yeah, you get a brief look at the boomerang here. Again, it looks pretty accurate, I think, is the main thing to say there. So just that's really all there is to say there. And that's basically Sokka. Then we have the one image we have of Zuko. I should probably zoom out a little bit here because this one's more of a tall picture. So it is early Zuko with the helmet on. The scar you can see straight away here. Actually, I'll zoom in on this just so we can get a look at this. You probably need to see the side of his face to get the full extent of what it's going to actually look like. Again, it's one of those ones where like the animation of Zuko doesn't really get across too much the idea that like it is this kind of disfigurement as such. So I get them not going too far down the idea of making it look like, you know, wild what's going on here. So I think this seems pretty solid. Again, I'd want to see like how far it comes like over here. Otherwise, the helmet, I don't know. It looks like the helmet has like a bad paint job or something like that. Maybe it's meant to be some sort of a thing. It's like it's used or something like that. That, you know, it's not pristine, but like it just, maybe the lighting just makes it look a little bit kind of odd. But not feeling super strongly about the helmet as such. Similarly, as we go down throughout the outfit here, you know, there's some nice detailing here on the shoulders. You can see some of the layers that he's wearing here. It's a bit of a frustrating, I think, image of Zuko, where like I think with like all the characters, you wish they had a shot that is more representative of them as they're going to look throughout most of the book. And unfortunately, they just seem to have given us a shot from, I guess, quite early on in the show, Zuko arriving at the Water Tribe. It all seems like it's more or less from in or around the same scene. This is Zuko, I suppose, terrorizing the South. This is Sokka defending the tribe. This is Katara, I guess, somewhere early on. And this is Aang, I guess, stepping out to, I guess, reveal himself to Zuko from the early episodes. So I get sort of why they did that. It's just some of the shots are a little bit kind of weird. But, you know, it's the start of us finally getting some information on this show. Does it change how I feel about the show overall? To me, not especially, because I think fundamentally what they failed to do here in the first reveal is just that we don't hear any dialogue. We don't get to see it in action. So we're missing some of the key elements of the visuals, like how's the bending going to look, like how's Appa going to look, even though I think everyone seemed to, during the interview segment, mention Appa. No screenshot of Appa or Momo. So that side of the visuals, like the CG stuff, we don't have a sense of like at all. The dialogue, which is obviously one of the criticisms of the Last Airbender movie, the most heaviest criticisms of the movie, that's the thing that they most need to prove in this movie that they've course corrected on. How do they get the humor right? Like, is our Sokka here going to be able to execute that line, like, this is Katara, my flying sister? Is he going to get, like, Appa snot on him when Appa sneezes on him? Are they doing that side of the humor from these, like, early episodes? You know, can we see our Aang here saying, you know, like, really? It felt higher than that? They're the questions that we have, because The Last Airbender took a relatively serious tone with what it did, and it obviously it completely ignored humor in all extents, but for what it was trying to do, it set a tone. They obviously want to course correct from The Last Airbender movie, but how's that going to actually work? And again, this is where like we have to realize that they have the cast for like nearly every episode in book one. It's 8 episodes, but they seem to be adapting in or around 17 or 18 episodes from book one. How's that going to work episode to episode? I've talked about this a lot, that it's obviously clear that, say, the first episode, maybe even the first 2 episodes, and maybe the last 2 episodes kind of write themselves. It's the Southern Water Tribe, Southern Air Temple stuff at the start. The ending is the Northern kind of Air Temple, Northern Water Tribe stuff. In the middle, how do you do all of that stuff across, say, 4 or 5 episodes? Are we just completely merging completely separate episodes from the animation together? How are we doing that transition? And the fact that the book one is a very scattered book where there is not a lot of huge continuity between episodes, in the sense that the continuity is we were in that town in the last episode, and they're going to have to mix all of that together. So there's still challenges that we just don't know about really, based on what we've seen now. So I feel like I still can't give a more concrete opinion on it other than, middle of the road. Like, I'm not seeing anything that makes me think they've nailed live action Avatar, but I'm not immediately thinking that this is a failure. So, it's not a 10, it's not a 0, and it's just, bumping those out of the way, and it's like, yeah, it comes out somewhere in the middle for now, which is where I was in the first place. And ultimately, I think this is something that is, I think it's more for the people who were super excited in the first place, that they now have images to go with it. These won't change too many people's minds, I don't think. So there's that. But yeah, in terms of other characters, except Zhang, I believe, right? Yeah, it's a tricky one, because again, some of the information's been a little scattered. But as far as I'm aware, the only characters from book one that we haven't seen or heard anything about actors for are obviously the characters from The Great Divide, and then Zhang. And then there's a few other characters that it feels like they seem to maybe have unnamed roles. Like I think in terms of Bato, I'm not sure, have we heard about someone directly called Bato, or is it just like, injured water tribe man, or something like that? But it feels like for the most part they've hit on nearly everyone. And then, yeah, I don't think we've heard about Haru or Tyro either. But other than that, they still have everyone else. Like, I think the Mechanist got mentioned directly on stage. Mechanist, Teo, June, we have actors for, and then there's also like the additions of, like, they have like Kyoshi, they have Karuk. It seems like that's where we're going to maybe see some additions of like actually seeing some past Avatar stuff with those two. So, interesting. But yeah, it was a long time going through the stream waiting for this to happen. Thankfully on Twitter I did manage to find like basically the schedule of like the order that they were going through it, so I knew Avatar was towards the end. But yeah, like, was this worth all the build up? I'm glad to have finally like a first look at this. It was maybe a little overhyped, because let's not forget that there was also the thing yesterday, which was meant to be a surprise on stage, but it seemed to just be the actors talking and no actual like surprise. Because if you were going to have an Avatar thing on stage for like a reasonable length of time with the actors there, it was always going to be them just, I guess, talking to the crowd who were there in attendance at the event. So little bits and pieces like that were obviously a bit frustrating, but the doors are open now. One of the main takeaways should be that there are now officially social media accounts for Netflix Avatar. On Twitter and Instagram is what I've seen so far. That's where most of this stuff came from. And that's the other funny thing, is that they just went up on Twitter before the live stream. So if you just were laser focused on the live stream and not looking at anything else, you were like, I think it was like 6 or 7 minutes behind the news actually going out. It was consistent throughout the entire stream after like the first like 5 or 6 minutes that everything was being announced first by like Netflix social media accounts before the stream actually got around to it. So that was a bit of a frustrating one. But yeah, Imprisoned, Great Divide. Yeah, Fortune Teller, yeah, we haven't heard anything about that. But I think that's one of those episodes where, like, you can do the Fortune Teller in, like, a very, very quick scene. Like, you don't need to do that entire episode because of, like, just the pacing of it, basically. You know, you can have, like, it's that you don't, it's one of those roles that it probably doesn't even need to be named, but it's like, there is a fortune teller character. It is Aunt Wu. So there's that. Let's see, I kept your Twitter open, but you were on Antoine's stream. Yeah, I looked at Antoine's stream for a while, and I noticed that he was very skeptical of people saying that there was like the full schedule out throughout the whole thing, and it was just like I had a feeling that this would happen. This is why I didn't stream throughout the whole thing, because I knew we'd be waiting for this. There was no way they were going to lead with this, and we'd be waiting at least half an hour, and I just felt like it's not worth it. Me just sitting here like bored through all these things that I'm not particularly interested in, just waiting for like, this one's not Avatar, move along. This one's not Avatar, move along. And then even then, most of the Avatar segment was the chat with the cast, which, if you like that sort of thing, great. It's not for me. Like, those PR interviews where they're asked extraordinarily basic questions, and it's more of just hype. This famous person is in the room. Not really my style of thing overall. In that, like, you know, I think the cast seem good. It seems like they have a good relationship. It seems like things were fun on the set. But I've never been the person to kind of like follow the actors, particularly on social media. And that even includes, like, say, when, you know, I was doing Korra stuff on the site and stuff like that. The voice actors, you know, I think it's interesting, say, like, the first kind of time getting to hear stuff about that, especially when it's like new characters for a new show. But when literally at some point the statement, something along the lines of, well, trying to avoid spoilers, this is what I have to say. I'm like, there's just this fundamental, like, lack of acknowledgement of, like, it's an adaptation. Why are we worried about spoilers? Unless there is some big changes that are spoilery. It's always a bit of a weird one there. Just like, come on. Trust that people know what Avatar is, and that, you know, you can talk a little bit about what's actually going on. And you could tell, like, the Katara's actress kind of wanted to say a little bit more. I think she talked specifically that her favorite episode was episode 5, which is a kind of interesting position. That would put it at, so that's like 3 to go. You have to assume probably the last 2 are like the full kind of finale. So that would be 8 and 7. 6, I guess, would be maybe Waterbending Master, kind of Northern Air Temple, kind of deserter style thing. So is episode 5 like in or around, like, what? What's in or around there? That's like the Blue Spirit, the Storm, Fortune Teller kind of portion of the season. But again, I think in that case, we are probably expecting them to switch stuff around a little bit, because, like, we know they have extra stuff going on Kyoshi Island, because they seem to have replaced Oyaji with Suki's mother, which is an interesting decision. It suggests we're spending more time in Kyoshi Island around that sort of stuff, which, I don't know, like, does it mean that when we go to Kyoshi Island, we're just getting Kyoshi flashback stuff? Because I think they want to bring some of that stuff into play kind of sooner rather than later. I'm pretty sure they're probably going to bring in a lot of the Escape from the Spirit World stuff forward, because it just makes a lot of sense to do that. That if Aang's going to Kyoshi Island and encounters stuff related to Kyoshi, he's going to have that connection. But I think they will want to keep the whole chain of the avatars thing, so they'll want to have him connect to Roku first. So you sort of wonder, like, is there a way to do the Roku temple stuff first and then go back to Kyoshi Island? Like, what way will they order all of this? Because like we seem to have kind of like rumors suggesting that Karuk's involvement will be that Aang will have some sort of a past avatar connection in the north and connect with Karuk, because it makes a whole lot more sense for Karuk to be the one to guide Aang to Ko than for Roku to just say, like, oh yeah, Ko's over there, because Karuk actually has the connection to Ko, and they seem to want to acknowledge the deeper continuity that is actually there in the extra material. So that's a interesting thing. Maybe he can encounter Roku at the Southern Air Temple. Yeah, that's probably a decent kind of shout, that when he goes into the Avatar state, when he finds Gyatso's skeleton, that Katara and Sokka help to pull him out of that, but that maybe in the process, you know, he has a bit of an encounter with Roku, and that's how we just start that whole thing. That way he has an initial connection with Roku, then you can just go to Kyoshi Island, have the Kyoshi stuff happen, and you can still have him have the deeper connection with Roku later on at the temple. Because we know that they have actors for the sages, so like Shayu and I think and stuff like that, the head sage, stuff like that. So it seems like they're going to do that sort of mid-season finale type thing where Aang learns about the comet and we have the kind of three-way standoff there. It feels like that's going to happen. I wonder if they'll use Yang Chen in a possible book too. I think they'll bring Yang Chen in eventually, but yeah, I wonder when exactly they'll do that, because obviously the way Yang Chen is done in the show, it's like you do see her briefly when they do the Avatar state explanation at the start of season 2. Other than that, it's like in the gap between season 2 and 3, you get Escape from the Spirit World Yang Chen, but Aang doesn't remember that canonically. So it's actually Sozin's Comet that is when he has the kind of encounter with Yang Chen. I don't know, there's certainly a way to do it, and they'll probably want to do Yang Chen at some point. Definitely. The series will be cancelled in season 2 somehow. I don't know. I think the reception that I've seen so far has been like good enough that I expect they'll do more. Just because, like, I think they'll want to get to hype moments like, you know, introducing their Toph and some of the moments that you can do there. But, you know, it's so difficult to speculate on it until we actually see so much of what we're kind of waiting to see again. All of this stuff is just, you know, the basics. We now, finally, after all these years, have an actual logo. We finally have a look at these characters, which it's felt like we've had the cast of this show for like an eternity, but only now do we actually have a look at what they actually look like. So it's one of those ones where you don't want this to suffer the same fate as The Last Airbender, where it was just like, this has been panned, you're done. there's no talk of a second Last Airbender movie, and that's kind of what we don't want to happen here. Of just that when we maybe finally get a trailer, we just look at it and go, yeah, this ain't getting a season 2, because I don't know. Has everyone seen the One Piece live action trailer that was also revealed at this event? Because these are the two shows that are being kind of tied together in the sense that if you were in the live chat for the Tudum live stream, the three shows that people were super, super excited for, that people were kept talking about, were people were spamming One Piece, spamming Avatar, and spamming Stranger Things. That's most of what I saw. I didn't look at the chat like the whole way through, but glancing at it every so often, those three kept popping up. One Piece was probably the most heavily talked about one, but if you see that trailer, there is an example of a show that just, I think, fundamentally is never going to work in live action. I think they did a much better job than I maybe expected. It looks better than I thought, but I still feel it's just like, oh no, I don't think this works. I really don't think that's how it works. So there's that. Let's see. These are actually set photos rather than shots from the episode, so the colors aren't actually set in stone yet. Okay. Like I'm a little bit like with stuff like that where I'm like, sure, but they showed us this. Like, do we have to, as fans, always look at these and be like, what we're looking at, not representative in any way? Colors, everything, none of it actually matters. It's like, at some point you have to be like, this is what they presented to us, we're allowed to have an opinion on it. Sure. Is it completely, absolutely finalized? Will it look slightly different in the finalized version? Perhaps. But, you know, it's still going to look somewhat like this. Like, there's only so much, like, defense I think you can do that doesn't just come back around to, well, why didn't you show us a more finalized thing? Yeah, that sort of thing. But yeah, the One Piece, I just think not gonna work. Just kind of a little bit everywhere through it is just like, there's a lot of effort going into this, but it feels like fighting a losing battle. With Avatar, I think everyone can see there is a pathway to make a really strong Avatar live action if you do everything perfectly. Because the problem with One Piece is, like, I think it's just impossible to get the tone of that correct. There's a way to get the tone of Avatar correct. So there's that. Let's see. Kind of interesting to see how they're going to make romance work with Aang and Katara. Also, is Aang going to defeat Ozai in 1 year? Yeah, that's, I think, something that a lot of people have been bringing up with the delay into 2024. The age of the actors and how they're going to sort of make this work, because it feels like if they're going to stick to the plot of the show, where it's like, what, in 9 months, basically, Aang goes from the start of the series to fighting Ozai. You can't make that work if you're going to take this long to film, go ahead with a season 2, wait, go ahead with a season 3, and so on. So, I don't know, I think you just adjusted and do exactly what the Last Airbender movie did and just say the comet is coming in 3 years. I think that's what the movie said. That's how you adjust it. It's just that instead of the comet being, you know, a couple of months away, it's 3 years away. That way you get at least a year and a bit to act as, you know, your gap between seasons and stuff like that. Yeah, because, like, otherwise, like, especially our Aang actor is going to, like, really, you're really going to see the age here if they're trying to keep a very small time frame. That's the kind of problem that you have here. But the impression I get is probably that if it airs in 2024 and it's a success, they'll probably film season 2 and 3 kind of like back to back. Potentially, like if it really like hits and they view it as a success, I think that's kind of what what way they're going to do it. But you know, we'll see how exactly that all kind of works and comes about. So there's that. As for the romance, I don't know. You have to assume they'll just do it pretty accurately to the way they do it in the show, where there'll be the little hint of it as soon as Aang wakes up. If you don't do the fortune teller, you miss out on a key moment for Aang and Katara in book 1. But there's a way to have that happen at different parts for sure. You know, you can make that work if you really, really want to. So there's that. But yeah, I don't really think there's too much to say. Like, the only bending we've seen really is this, like Katara with the ball of water here. So, you know, it looks decent for this shot. Obviously, there's a huge difference between seeing this and actually seeing, say, two characters in motion doing martial arts to make a bending move actually happen, the way they actually shoot that to make it look good, the way the animation is done in terms of like how the bending itself looks, how it looks in motion, and how they, you know, adapt, you know, what attack is happening compared to what the character's actually doing. That's obviously one of the big failings of the Last Airbender movie, is that the approach to bending was off quite heavily, where you had to perform an entire martial arts sequence to just make kind of one somewhat basic move happen. There was a really kind of big kind of charge, kind of wind up time associated with all the bending in the movie, and I think they just have to make it fluid here, and they've solved it. Like, just do it accurately. That's all you need to do here. No messing around with these kind of like complicated dynamics and stuff like that. Yeah, the Witcher trailer from the event also gets brought up here. Yeah, there was a character using fire magic that kind of basically looked like fire bending, and it looked, I think, pretty solid. Obviously, I think a fire bender doing it would do a little bit more, but in general, I think something along the lines of that is going to look pretty good. Earthbending is definitely where we need to see the most improvement over the Last Airbender movie, just because we didn't see much of it in the Last Airbender movie, and I'd like to see a really impressive display of that in this to really show it in action. Let's see, did they film on the volume for this? Yeah, I actually was the whole thing on the volume, because like I don't really remember hearing too much about them like filming on location or anything like that. So I'm pretty sure is the entire filming on volume, maybe minus a scene or two. I forget how much detail we actually have about a lot of that stuff, but they definitely made a point of saying that like this is a huge production for use of the volume, and that like they were using like a really, really big one. So we'll see how that ends up kind of working out. Let's see. Okay, so there is some reports about locations. Yeah, I just don't remember any of that stuff, because again, basically nothing kind of even really leaked out as such about this as well. So that's the kind of other problem as well. So yeah, I guess kind of with that out of the way, I guess we'll move on to kind of the final section of this, where we'll do the booster box opening here. So obviously my order of stuff arrived earlier on. I opened the rest of the stuff off camera and just kept this one to open kind of here on camera, and we'll just try and get through this pretty quickly, since at this point, like, I have the full kind of like main set overall. Just kind of looking for some of the kind of higher rarity cards, of course. But yeah, we can continue to talk about this like as we go through it, of course, because I'm not going to do card analysis here when most people probably aren't super familiar with the game. But yeah, I suppose, like, what are your people's general thoughts on this? Like, in terms of, like, are we excited? Are we disappointed? Or is it just like, it's okay? Because I'm very much in the middle on, like, it's okay. This looks okay to me. Nothing crazy wrong. Nothing crazy amazing either. That's where I'm at with this. Just sort of like dead middle of the road, kind of exactly where I was before I came in. Because fundamentally, I just don't think this kind of like moved the needle all that much. But I think the main thing is just that the door is open for new information now. We have those social media accounts, and the show is not a secret anymore, which has always been, I think, the problem, that it just felt like, why are you keeping this a secret? It's an adaptation. Hopefully we can just continue to kind of go on from here. So, our box topper card here. We got the Chibi Toff here. So, pretty nice overall. Again, the 5 box topper cards you can get in a box are Chibi-Yang, Chibi Toff, Chibi Zuko, Chibi Katara, and Chibi Sokka. So yeah, I have all of these now as well. The Aang is actually quite an interesting card, for anyone wondering. And then yeah, we have 16 packs in here. There we go. And again, for anyone wondering, like, sort of like ratios and stuff like this, if you're not familiar with this game, we expect from every box 6 kind of like rare pulls, effectively. And that will work out as either we'll get 5 of the sort of standard higher rarity card, double rare, and 1 kind of high rarity foil card, or we'll get 4 double rares and 2 foil cards. So hopefully we get the 2 foil cards, but you know, either way, it's pretty okay. We'll switch back to Zuko here for this. And again, like, is it just me, or does the helmet, the kind of paint job on the helmet, just seem a bit off here when you actually look at the details here? I think they're kind of just going for some sort of a weathered look, but I don't know. Seems a little questionable to me. Okay, so pack here. Again, I'm not going to bother going through sort of a lot of the commons and uncommons. I'm just going to see what we get. So, our rare is Toph and Aang Earthbending Lessons here. So obviously these have a little bit of it's not foiling effect. It's more of just kind of like a kind of shiny plastic kind of effect on the kind of standard rarity cards. So that's what we got there. And then the Climax Sideways card is Falling Out here. So that's just a common Climax card, but that's what we got there. So nothing crazy with that. And we'll move on. But yeah, overall, I would say this had the potential to be like super, super exciting, but didn't, to me, move the needle in the ways that it kind of needed to. Much more excited for a lot of other stuff like Avatar Weiss Schwarz, and then of course, as mentioned in chat there, new Avatar novel out next month. What is it? It's exactly a month, isn't it? Or I keep forgetting. For me anyway, because it's past midnight right now, so it's the 18th for me, and I think it's the 18th of July is the release date of the book. So Legacy of Yang Chen in a month. Super excited for that. So our second pack rare, we got the Suki Kyoshi Warrior. Do note that this is one of the cards where they got the spelling wrong on it. They are going to do a sort of replacement thing, but I think you do have to attend one of their in-person events to get a correct spelling version of the card. And then we got Frozen in Action as our Climax card there. So very cool there with Katara versus Azula. So that's fine. Again, at this point, I've opened enough of the cards to that I have, like, obviously the full 100 card set. But to build decks, you of course need like 4 copies of every card. Let's see, any info on the armless avatar? As far as I'm aware, that is just a odd kind of thing with the angle that character is shown at. That character does actually have arms. They are just shown in a way where it almost makes them look like they don't have arms. So I don't think we have any actual confirmation that there is an armless avatar out there. Let's see, these are just standard cards. Our rare is a Zuko T server. And the climax card that we get is actually one of the cards that I got to reveal, I believe, this one. Reunion with the group. So cool to kind of get that like I got to reveal this like a month plus before the game came out. And then, like, there's some fun cards in here. If you haven't seen any of these, like, they have cards for, like, the actors from Ember Island players. Gyatso has a card, which if you have the trial deck, this is a really obvious card from the booster set to use in your trial deck. So I'll be doing some sort of a video covering that as well. How to upgrade the trial deck properly. So there's that. Let's see, how do I feel about the characters not having accurate eye color? I always thought it was cool how the eyes match the elements. It's a nice detail to have in the lore that, like, you know, Fire Nation characters have the, what is it, like, yellow kind of amber eyes or whatever it is. But you want the better actor, and if their eye color doesn't match, I think that's a relatively minor detail that you'd just prefer to have the better actor rather than choose the worst actor who has the right eye color. You know, it's just one of those kind of details that, like, yeah, you wish it could be the most accurate, but I don't mind too much fundamentally. Like, sure, there's cool stuff in the lore about the, like, spider snake extract that you can use within the series to change that, but as is mentioned in chat there, contacts, if you need to, you can do visual effects and stuff like that. But a rare, pretty cool here, Katara and Aang, reciprocated feelings here. So a bit of a combo here. There's a yellow card that's Aang and Katara, and that's a nice one there. And then a very cool climax card here. It's just a common, but Space Sword for Sokka. So very nice to see that there. And so far, that's all climax commons, isn't it? Yeah, so they're all that. We're expecting a couple of the other ones. Let's see. Actress Katara. Let's see. Momo, Zuko, Aang, Daily Agents. It's a fun card. Yip Yip. Event. Also a card I got to reveal. And what do we get here? The rare is the follow-up card to the Zuko T server. It's Iroh T server. So some nice stuff there. A lot of rares, double rares in red. So if you are playing the game, it looks like the red is probably the way to go in terms of the overall best deck. Here's a climax rare, Spirit Water. That's pretty nice. And I can show you after I open all this stuff some of the higher rarity cards that I pulled as well from packs earlier on. I now have 2 SPs, so some pretty cool stuff going on there. There's the logo in case you missed it. But yeah, I guess otherwise we're in the kind of Q&A section of the stream. If you have anything you want to ask or want to see me discuss. Okay, so we got a pull here. I'll show this off in just a second. So yeah, some pretty cool stuff. So our climax card from that pack, again, frozen in action. No problem there. Our rare, very interesting card, Katara Quick Thinker. So a cool Katara card, and very interesting for like the actual gameplay as well. In terms of, like, it works with the bigger Aang card and stuff like that. Pretty interesting. Let's see. Will they update the logo? I'm not sure. This seems to be it. It's one of those kind of interesting ones. And then yeah, the rare. So here is a foil card. This is our parallel. So we got Zuko on the run. Very nice. And that is an Avatar rare. I actually only realized that there. I was convinced that was an SR for a second, but actually managed to pull an Avatar rare. So this is, I think, the third highest rarity of a card in the set. So that's really, really good to get. I probably should put that straight into a card sleeve, actually. Cabbage Merchant card sleeves. If you get the supply set, of course. They're actually pretty nice card sleeves. Kind of silvery, kind of behind the card. Cabbage Merchant stuff. So there is that. Let's see. Can you look up casting? So we don't know the characters of. Guess who they're playing. Look at the castings left. We don't know the characters of, and guess who they're playing. I don't think we have any examples of like characters where like we have like an unaligned actor, or they said this character's in the show but we don't know who's playing them. So I'm not sure if we can actually accomplish that. But anyway, okay, so that, I think that means that this box is probably going to have another parallel. We should get a super rare, I think, at least coming out of this. Let's see, Avatar Studios versus Netflix Avatar. If that's in relation to casting, then the only casting for Avatar Studios we know is just that apparently Dante Bosco is keeping his role. Everyone else is going to be recast. So that, I think that's the only real information we have there. Climax card, Invention of Metal Bending. So Toph has 3 Climax cards. Like, she basically has green in this set to herself. So if you're a Toph fan, you can build a complete Toph deck from this set. Our rare, Katara Experienced Fighter. We actually got a double rare in this pack as well. Card number 1 in the set, Aang, the Last Airbender. Very nice. And then anything else here? Code the Face Stealer card. Actually somewhat interesting. It's a brainstorm in the set, so it's actually a usable card. Let's see. Hope D. Bradley Baker's coming back for Appa and Momo. That I wouldn't say that should be much of a problem. They should be able to get D. Bradley Baker for that stuff, I think. Do we know if Jeremy Zuckerman and Benjamin Wynn score will be used in the series? Wait, what do we know? For the live action, I think what we know is that they have a composer, but the composer is going to be using music from the show, as well as kind of new original stuff. I think that's the kind of details that we have there, because obviously we know Jeremy Zuckerman seems to be remastering the Avatar music, potentially ahead of a soundtrack release, though at this point I'm not really sure if the reason he's doing that is for the soundtrack release or if it's because of it needing to be used in this show. It's a bit of a weird one there. Yeah, because there's a minor little bits of music in like what we actually heard in the trailer, but there's not too much to kind of say about it, in my opinion. What do we get here? Zuko on the run and reunion with the group again. So, oh yeah, this is probably actually a good example to show this. The same card, different rarity. So obviously we got the Avatar rare. So you could see this here. these two are actually the exact same like card mechanically, and in terms of what their name is, one is just the higher rarity version of the other one. In this case, I think the higher rarity one is a much better picture overall. Let's see, Simon Chin, maybe as Jong Jong. It's interesting. What else do we have here? Have you seen the fan-made Avatar bending game around the bending arena on PC? I don't really tend to look at a lot of kind of fan game type stuff. I tend to focus just mostly on the official stuff. I only occasionally come across some of that stuff. Let's see, I'm really interested to see how they'll do Aang versus the Fire Nation Navy scene. Okay. I guess, is that the Koizilla scene? Yeah, it will be interesting to see how they do the ending, because like the movie did that interesting with the wave, which was good, but they probably have to do Koizilla, the Avatar state merged with the ocean spirits. It's too much of, I think, a classic scene, and I think they need to do the spirits correct compared to what the last Airbender movie did. Definitely. Let's see, Boomy, interesting. What else do we get here? Sokka cactus juice. So yeah, Boomy has a card in the set. Pretty nice. It is just like an uncommon though. What is it? Or no, it's actually a common. Our rare, conveniently, Sokka cactus juice. So that's kind of nice to get. And the climax rare, Colors of Fire. So really cool. One of the kind of red kind of little themes in the set is the kind of Zuko and Aang kind of good firebending. So yeah, that's that. And that is... How many packs do we have left, actually? 7 packs left. So yeah, we're getting through this pretty quickly overall. How are they going to make the cactus juice work in live action? So... Can this guy do the cactus juice scene? Can this guy say, maybe that's a friendly mushroom? That's the question with a lot of these kind of, you know, classic scenes of like, they would want to, because they know fans would be expecting them when they get to book 2 to do something like a cactus juice. Like, it'd be weird if you ignored it, but how do you actually do that? I don't know. Tricky one. Okay, so here's our other foil pull. Rare Azula and the Space Sword again. So our normal rare is Azula, Talented Sister. So one of the Azula cards. And then our other parallel card is this one here. So Katara, this is Experienced Fighter. Probably one of the weaker ones. I think we just got this card as well. Let me show the difference between these two cards. Because the scene is very, very similar in this case between these two cards. So you can see it's just kind of like very similar scenes, just like different kind of frames, almost from the same shot. But still, it's nice to have the alternate rarity stuff going on as well. Yeah, and then yeah, people asking a question: will we get a serious Sokka here, or will we get the humor? I think from the little bit we saw of him, like on stage, in the interview, he seems pretty like fun. So I think like he could execute like a certain level of kind of jokes, kind of humor and stuff like that. It's just about like, can they do the full extent of that with the character, given that you do also expect there to be a serious arc there as well, with the whole becoming a warrior thing, the dynamic with Suki that's going to have to happen early on, and then with Yue later on. So, you know, I trust that they have the actors and they've chosen them because they can do both sides of the character. They can get both aspects of the character down. That I think there is a sense that they want to do things differently than the Last Airbender movie, which is why they have changed stuff that they maybe didn't even need to change, including, like, say, I don't think like Katara's kind of cold weather kind of coat here is as good as the Last Airbender version of sort of like equivalent clothing. So I'm just interested to see kind of like a lot of stuff like that, how it all works. Let's see, next pack. Okay, that's good. Failure to protect. We got the Ty Lee popular card in rare. And then we got the next double rare, which is the Sokka double rare, which is actually a pretty interesting card if you play blue. Zuko. Will the whole sexist Sokka thing be in there? I assume so. I don't see why they'd leave that out, given that they now know like Suki is important, which they didn't know even in the show at the time, because they only brought her back much later. You have to assume they'll play up the importance of that scene at the time, and it's an important early scene for Sokka in his arc. I'd be surprised if they left it out, given that they seem to be pushing Suki maybe a little bit more heavily here, just with we're expecting a bit more Kyoshi. Suki's mother is going to be in this one. That's one of the big changes that we've heard about so far. Stuff like that. Okay, next pack. What do we have here? Okay, Siblings Agni Kai. So a rare, Katara No Chance Given. Climax card. We've got the Agni Kai card. Very nice. Let's see, who's playing Suki? I'm terrible with names of the cast. Like, I barely even remember the names of the main cast members here, even though I just watched an interview with them. It is going to take me a very long time to get the names right in my head. But let's see there. Maria Zhang? I guess that's correct. Again, I don't really follow actors, so I have like basically no familiarity with like pretty much the entire cast. I think I know 3 of the actors from other stuff that I've seen, and that is because they were all characters in Lost, and that's the only reason I know. Like Daniel Day Kim, the guy they have playing Zhao, and the guy they have playing one of the Fire Sages, is because they were all in Lost. Other than that, everyone else seems pretty much new to me, or if I have seen them in something, I just don't remember. But that's just me with like actors and stuff like that in general. It's like I'm more focused on like the material rather than kind of following the actors like themselves. Because like I have confidence that like they've chosen the right people. I just need to see them saying some lines to see if this is a good Zuko, to see if this is a good Sokka, to see if we have a good Katara here, to see if this is a good Aang. They seem to know their characters, because I get the impression that they all are familiar with the show, and then some of them seem bigger fans than kind of others. So like I think they get it. So full confidence there. Okay, another Azula card. Toph, invention of metal bending. So a rare, Toph stopping the library from sinking. Double rare Azula, Verge of Insanity. So that's a big card if you want to play Azula. Other than that, I suppose because it's sort of thematic, we do have the Twee and Law card. We're going to get to that in live action at the end. Will Suki travel with the gang? I'd be surprised if they made a big decision like that. I really don't think they're going to make the decision to move kind of Suki up. I think they'll keep her arc the same, where she's inspired by meeting kind of Sokka and the whole events of like Suki alone. The comic happen. She turns up, at the Serpent's Pass. She has her kind of bit in Appa's Lost Days, and then comes back in the Boiling Rock and stuff like that. I think they'll keep that roughly the same. I'm expecting, I think, just the Kyoshi Island stuff to just be a little bit more expanded. But even then, I do think it probably will just be that if you watch episode 4 of the show, you just see the statue of Kyoshi. They don't really linger on the importance of who Kyoshi is as an avatar until later on. I think they'll just place the importance on that then and there, rather than needing to then do Avatar Day and really get that stuff across. So I don't know how much of the kind of Avatar Day details with like Jin, the formation of Kyoshi Island, will they bring up? I'm not sure, because when you get into season 2 for the live action, all of a sudden you're in an interesting spot there where you have sort of like the very clear cut like conspiracy arc in Ba Sing Se, which is, you just kind of have to do pretty much in full. But then you have the more scattered episodes before that. That's going to be interesting to see how they do it. Let's see. Will Ozai show his face in season 1? I'm assuming they have a pretty big actor in Daniel Dae Kim. He's probably one of the biggest actors they have in the show. I would be stunned if they hid him for the entire show. I'm pretty sure we're just going to see him in full. The only thing it takes away is, I guess, if you really value the reveal in the show in like season 3 when we see Ozai's face for the first time, which is cool, but I don't think it's like a huge thing. I think it's more important to get across, I think, the character of Ozai, especially when you have a big actor like that. So I think you just kind of show him a little bit more. It does beg the question of like, it probably suggests there have to be more scenes with him. Where do you expand on Ozai overall, and what are we doing here in the sense that like you have the Agni Kai scene with Zuko that we expect in flashback? Do they just expand on that? Do they bring up some of the Zuko alone backstory into book 1 so Ozai has more to do? Do they do something crazy that's never been done before, like have Iroh talk to Ozai? Who knows? Okay, there's another double rare. I think this should be our last one, actually. So very cool. Speaking of Iroh Dragon of the West. Some very good level 3s in red for this set. And also the level 3 Zuko for Honor. So some good stuff there. Sokka. So is our actor here going to be more like this, or the Sokka that we actually know? Nothing else to focus on there. Let's see. Will they ever do a Korra live action series after Avatar? Yeah, it just completely depends on how successful this is, because I think this show getting season 2 and 3 is going to depend on how successful season 1 is. And I think if it gets to season 2, I'm pretty sure they're just going to get the whole show. I'd be shocked if they get to do season 2 but don't get to do season 3. I think once they get into that stuff, they're set for the rest of the show. Comic adaptations. In terms of Avatar Studios, they have said no adaptations. Whether or not the show, the live action will attempt to do more on that stuff, I'm not super sure, because they obviously have to finish the show, and then the comics are obviously set afterwards. So I'm not really sure the details necessarily there, because like the only really obvious one to really add on would be like the search, but you'd have to do that like right at the end, and it would really just be like tagged on right at the end there, where when Zuko confronts Ozai. But even then, the story itself is a whole like kind of plot thing that happens, so it's a bit of a tricky one. Will this have 8 episodes? Yes, I think we know it's confirmed for 8 episodes. I think it also fits with what the Katara actress said at the panel, which is that she's particularly excited for fans to see episode 5, which in the show is the King of Amashu, but I think she's referring to obviously a little bit much later on situation in the live action. Okay, super chat here from Kaito Jr. Here's some support. I really like Avatar and Legend of Korra. I think the show has some of the best facial expressions. Yes, the kind of underappreciated animation of Avatar, which, because it's kind of so old, even Korra at this point, because it's been out a while, you often don't appreciate just how kind of strong the animation is in both of those shows, definitely. Really impressive, and again, this is where you hope that the actors kind of get that sort of stuff right here. So this is a serious situation for Aang here, but I definitely get the impression from the actor, from the interview, that I think he will do well as Aang in the humorous scenes. But this is where, like, I wish they'd done a little bit of a showcase for some of these actors to show the different sides of them. And maybe they'll do that as we go forward, but I think when you're doing an adaptation, I do feel you probably should attempt to do stuff like that to just better kind of get across the characters. Show us that Aang is not just going to be serious like he is in the Last Airbender movie. Show us a fun scene, show us the serious scene to show he can do both. Kind of somewhat similar with Katara, you know. Show us the range. That's what we want to see from the actors. Sokka offering different perspectives is our next one. Let's see, what do we have here? How will they do the Avatar state scene at the end? I think they have to do Koizilla. I think they have to do the fusion kind of scene where he merges with the ocean spirit. I like the Last Airbender movie, what they do, but I'm not sure if they're going to go for what the Last Airbender movie did, which was to create an arc with Aang based around waterbending and the emotions, letting his emotions flow, and so that powerful Avatar state level waterbending moment and him waterbending powerfully for the first time. It works in that moment, but you know, you have to build up to that with sort of scenes that are new, effectively. But I suppose it's just stuff like, you know, how will they do episode 9? Waterbending scroll. Do they just have Aang be like, I'm learning waterbending, but Katara only knows a few moves, and have the whole thing with the pirates? Or will they try and create an arc with him around waterbending? We'll have to wait and see with that. Yeah, I never understood the criticism Korra Book 2 gets for having a different studio for some of the episodes, yet ATLA had 3 different studios. Yes. That's just some of the Korra kind of dislike coming out, that a lot of people seem to just have this kind of perception that all 61 episodes of Avatar were animated by the same main team, and every Avatar episode is better than every Korra episode, when that's not the case at all. Like, there's 2 studios on Book 1, 2 studios on Book 2, then one of those studios changes as we go into Season 3, one of them sticks around, and then it means that Korra is actually the more kind of consistently animated show when you really break it down, because, like, what is it? Like, 7 episodes are done by Studio Pierrot, and every other episode is done by Studio Mirror. What else do we have going on here? Are they going to get rid of Momo? I'd be shocked. I don't think they can. I think people will be annoyed, but can they afford to do Appa and Momo, given that Momo's not super plot relevant? You know, that would be an interesting decision if they made that, to be like, hey, do we blow our budget on having Momo in the background of every scene, expensive CG to make him work properly, or do we just focus just on Appa, who's kind of the more important character? Be a brave decision to make to exclude Momo. I don't think they'll do it. I think they're just not showing us much of the kind of CG, any of the CG stuff in particular right now. I think that's just the fact of the situation. Is just they're not showing us any of the CG, and all the rumors seem to suggest that the reason it's delayed is probably because they're spending the time to make the CG work. Will the firebending in this series be like the movie or free-flowing like the series? I think the bending in general, I think they will definitely make the choice to be accurate to the show. I think that's a very simple decision for them, where they just will not attempt in any way to complicate the bending beyond what it is from the show. That's probably one of the most universally disliked things from the movie. Was just the bending felt slow, kind of clunky, and very few of the scenes felt like proper bending. So, you know, that simple decision there, they just are going to want to make that as flowing as possible, for sure. So, yeah, they're going to do that. They're not going to make any weird decision that, like, in the Last Airbender movie, firebenders can't produce their own fire. Only during the comet they can produce their own fire. I don't think they'll do stuff like that. They'll keep the simplicity of what we have in the original material. So, last rare from the box, Aang Blending In. Card I got to reveal as well. And also a card that goes in the 4-color Aang deck. So, pretty nice box overall there. Got an Avatar rare, which kind of wasn't expecting to. So, that's pretty nice. Let me just get my binder here, and I can show off some of this stuff. So, I think I can switch here. Okay, here we go. Just cam, so you can see this all a little bit better. Managed to organize this today. The kind of full set going on here. So, that's the kind of way I have it done here, where like this is just kind of card 1. And then just kind of going through, this is like one copy of like every card from the set. Main set, not parallel. There's a lot of the green cards. Going into red, you can see there. In order. So that's about like halfway through the set. There's the rest of red going into blue. Most of blue. And the last couple of cards here. Card number 100 up here at the top. And then some of the chibi cards. So they're the other kind of box topper cards. So you can see there's Chibi Aang. Chibi Zuko is actually Blue Spirit. Chibi Sokka you see over here. And some of these are foil, some of these are non-foil. That's not a foil Katara. It's just a duplicate chibi one. Some alternate arts there as well. And then these are just kind of like the duplicates, like playset stuff that I have here. Because obviously like one copy for the complete set, and then you can play 4 copies of a card in your deck. So this is kind of like the play sets of the rest of the cards there. And I think that's just that. And then we get to the rares, which I'll just show off here. So here's an SP. This is a Toph. If you saw my early opening, you probably saw me pull this card. So you can see the foil stamp on this one with the earthbending symbol. One of the higher rarity cards in the set, the Toph. Very cool. I got the SP for Sokka as well earlier on. And this is, I really like this art. I don't remember outside of this card having seen this Sokka art anywhere. They might have used it on Instagram officially at one point. So that's one of those things. And, very nice. I should take it out of the sleeve because sometimes the sleeve can kind of take away from the kind of foiling effect overall. But yeah, really, really nice with the socket there. I got a couple of the shiny Climax cards. Yes, this is a game. The cards, as you can see, do have levels. They have power here. I have a recent video I put up on my channel about how to play using the Avatar trial deck. It's a pretty good game actually overall. There's some nice kind of stuff to it where obviously there's the characters kind of battling each other, but also a kind of cool mechanic where you flip cards from the top of your deck and you get kind of different effects based on what you kind of flip over. But here is a triple rare Siblings Agni Kai. So that one's really nice. Let me just show you the other version of that, because I got that. So obviously this is the super nice version, and then this is just the standard version here. So you can see they're from the same scene, but I do think the foil one is the better one, where Zuko just completely, tears Azula's attack apart. Really nice. Are they going to make action figures of the live action series? That is an interesting question. Is just sort of merchandise in general surrounding the live action show. I have no idea what way they're going to do it, because there's a minor relationship between the Netflix production and Avatar Studios. And of course, we're expecting Avatar Studios to have merchandise properly when it comes out. It's going to be weird because the obvious merch you'd expect would be something like, say, Funko Pops. But we have Avatar Funko Pops. How different is the movie version of Aang Funko Pop, given that they're trying to be pretty accurate? Would they do something like that? Or does the show exist to push people towards the animation, and so if they just have general Avatar merch out, that's what they're aiming towards? Plus, as mentioned in chat there, Netflix isn't great about merchandising shows. Something like, say, Voltron took ages to get merchandise, and it arguably came a little late. I got the Spirit Water alternate art kind of super rare version. Again, the normal version of this is literally just the Spirit Water vial, but this is the actual kind of emotional kind of part of the scene with it being used. So that's pretty nice. I got the foil version of the Suki card, which also, as you can see, has the spelling error on it. No idea about what way it's going to work. I'm still going to assume the correctly spelled version of the card is probably going to end up having a larger print run than any corrected version, because I assume it'll be opened up more, the original stuff. But it's really nice here, the Suki card here. It's only a super rare, but it's effectively the Avatar rare Suki card, because it's the promo art Suki, so that's nice to see. And then I think last two foil cards, here's the alternate art version of Zuko T-Server, using the pretty new art of Zuko. I think we first saw this with there's a disc plate you can get, which, if you want to know what a disc plate is, it's that Appa is like a metal poster. You can get them. And I think this image of Zuko was offered as one of those disc plates that you can get. And then I also got Zuko and Iroh Forgiveness. So I think this is a much better art of the scene, the actual hug scene, whereas they did a weird double screenshot thing on the normal copy of the card. So that one's pretty nice. Yeah, like the Last Airbender movie had merchandise. It had its own toy line. I'd be very questioning if Netflix Avatar gets a toy line when Korra never got a toy line. we're expecting a Korra toy line from McFarlane anytime now, but they seem to have forgotten about it. So I think it'd be probably one of the most frustrating things we've probably ever encountered as Avatar fans, would be if this live action show gets like a full action figure line and Korra still doesn't have like a single like action figure. She has some statues here and there, but even then, like, there's a lot of merch that like has been kind of half announced that still hasn't come out for Korra. So I don't know. My expectations probably is just that they'll let the show act as something that will draw people to Netflix and draw people to the rest of Avatar. It'll get people in the door for Avatar Studios, and so they can hopefully deliver with like Avatar Studios merch when it comes out. Because yeah, the Korra has basically nothing. Question there. Let's see, I don't understand the same cards having different arts. It should be the same, so the difference in foiling shows the rarity. In other Weiss Schwarz sets, that's how they do it. It's like the same art, but just with different foiling. I think the community with Weiss Schwarz tends to prefer when they do the alternate arts. Like for Avatar, I much prefer that the higher rarity version is very different, because when you're only pulling maybe like one, like I got lucky in my box and got 2 foil cards, but when you're getting like 1 per box and it's the lowest rarity one, if all you've pulled is just the card you already have maybe 3 or 4 copies of and it's just slightly foil, it doesn't feel as good as, oh, well, I got that card, I'm not super excited about it, but at least it's alternate art as well. That's sort of the to me at least, the logic of it. That way you have the big difference between like this card looks like this versus that. So yeah, there's that. And then here in the binder is the kind of play sets of some of the other cards as well, like double rares and stuff like that, trying to build them up. Still probably going to have to buy a couple of singles to be able to do like full deck building overall, but we're getting there. Because I pretty much resigned myself to the fact that like I think the pricing on single cards is going to be very high. It already, I think, is from what I've seen so far. It's going to be very high on some of those like super high rarity cards. Like for instance, let me show this. This Avatar Rare Zuko. The going price for this right now, like a day after the release of the set, is probably at least a $200 card. Like that's how much these are probably going to be selling for. Even when it settles down and more people have opened it, more sellers put it up online, it's probably going to still hold about 100 because it's Zuko. It's a really nice art of Zuko, and it's one of the highest rarities. Like that's the whole thing, and the idea is like there's 7 other Avatar rares in the set. Now, obviously, a few of them are not going to be as rare, like as expensive. Like, I don't see the Mei Avatar rare or the Ty Lee Avatar rare holding value. But for instance, like the Zuko, the Toph, I think are going to be very expensive cards. The only thing with the Zuko that might hold it back is that Zuko does have a secret rare card in the set, which is quite impressive. But that's the thing, that because you get so few of those parallel cards in boxes, they all kind of have a decent amount of value. Only some of the super rares tend to be kind of low value. Let's see, what are we going to get? An open world RPG Avatar game? Okay. The rumors on Avatar video games at the moment, because it's been all over the place. So we have Avatar Generations, the mobile game, is out. That's fine. We all know about Avatar Generations. Avatar Quest for Balance, this kind of rumored kind of 3D action adventure game or whatever it's meant to be, is meant to be out this year or something like that. I don't even know. But I don't think that's going to be a super hyped game. Now, admittedly, we haven't really seen anything about it yet. I don't know what's holding up its release, because I think it was initially scheduled for like late last year, but it seems to be delayed into potentially late this year. So hopefully we see something about Quest for Balance. But then there are rumors that there are higher level Avatar video games in development, including some sort of an RPG, like I think big RPG style game. But I think like it's really early like rumors. There's like really not a lot behind it. That's really all that there really is. So it's the game we want, definitely. And I don't know if everyone saw it, but like at one of the recent video game conferences, they showed off, I think, the first gameplay from the Blue People Avatar, James Cameron's Avatar. It's getting an open world game that looks relatively good. And I think the whole idea is that, like, yeah, we'd like an Avatar game of at least that quality, equivalent quality to that. But it doesn't look like we're getting it yet. That's the kind of big problem. Because Avatar, I suppose, doesn't quite have the history yet of kind of proving itself as being a big kind of video game seller. And that's why, like, in a way, the success of Avatar Generations probably highlights that people really like Avatar, and even a game that isn't super maybe blowing people away in every single aspect, like Generations, is doing quite well for itself. What else do we got here? Will Weiss Schwarz do a Korra set, do you think? Well, they said early on, when the Avatar set was announced, the initial question people had was Korra, and I think at the time they basically said that, like, if Avatar does well, kind of why not? And again, in my kind of interactions with the kind of PR person for Weiss Schwarz, in terms of like doing the videos with them, I kind of got the impression that the same thing was true even now, that like they would like to do Korra, but it depends on the Avatar set doing well. And we're going to just have to wait and see if that actually works out to be the case. I think there's a little bit of hype behind it. It's been fun to see at least a couple of Avatar more Avatar focused people getting their Avatar Weiss Schwarz stuff in. So, and then I think there's at least enough interesting cards that I think the people who are more into the game also are interested in the Avatar set to a certain degree. So I hope it works, because I'd love to see a Korra get the set as well. PS2 Avatar games. Yeah, like some of the old Avatar games are decent. Like, I actually think the DS and then was one of them on 3DS? No, they're all DS games, original DS games. I think the DS games are all decent, especially the Chibi one for Book 3 is actually pretty good overall. Probably about time to end the stream here, because it's coming up to like 2 a.m. for me. It was nice to discuss this. Again, I do wish we had more to talk about overall. When we get more information on Netflix Avatar, I'll be talking about it in like news videos, specific discussion videos, of course. You know, if you follow my channel, you know I cover pretty much everything. So definitely check that out, because like I actually have a decent amount of videos planned. So like I just finished up yesterday part 3 of my recap video series on the Dawn of Yang Chen. Do I have the novel here? No, it's back over there on my shelf. But do I have anything? I think just here. Dawn of Yang Chen audiobook recap. Well, I'm just recapping the material, but that will be coming out on Monday. I'll have some more Weiss Schwarz stuff about deck building coming up, and whatever else happens, definitely. Yeah. Thanks everyone for joining me on the stream. If you want to like rewatch it, it will be live as a video like immediately as soon as I end. So if you came in late, you can just kind of go back and watch it. But thanks for coming out. Thanks for watching, and bye.